All right, and welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. This is our championship Sunday preview. It's going to be a quick one because we're we got a little bit of a time constraint. So I'm Kenneth Grunfelder along with the great Ben Upson. So we will recap divisional weekend, talk about the crazy games pretty quickly, and then we will jump right into the championship games. So, my co-host Ben, how are we doing today?
Kenny doing great. Hard to believe that we've already made it to Championship Sunday. It feels like just yesterday we were talking about the beginning of the season, and now all of a sudden we're into the final, or excuse me, the second to last week of the NFL season, which is very sad. But fear not, we have two fantastic games on the slate today, and we'll get through all the mania from last weekend. So let's do it.
Yeah, well, don't forget we also have the Pro Bowl in between
Oh, please.
championship week and the Super Bowl. So, we will not be doing a show for the Pro Bowl because, I mean, we could, but I don't know. We'll see. So, I'm gonna go through each game really quickly, give my thoughts on them, and then Ben will do the same thing. So, I don't know. For me, last weekend was probably one of the best weekends of football I ever watched. Pretty much every game came down to the wire. Um, and I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again, but it was pretty great. So the first game, Bengals Titans. Bengals getting the win 19-16. And I thought this game was going to be close, but I thought the Titans would ultimately win. This game showed me that the Titans need to move off of Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. He did not play well in this game, 3 turnovers. Joe Burrow getting sacked 9 times, but he was able to prevail, and the Bengals win this close game. And listen, if they could build an offensive line around Joe Burrow and they could, shore up the defense, this team is going to be even better next year. And the fact that they're in the championship game, it is it's unbelievable. But yeah, that was a disappointing loss for the Titans, them being the number 1 seed, and you have all your guys back. Tannehill made a great throw to AJ Brown for the touchdown, but the Titans, they just did not look good offensively in this game. And the Bengals, we'll see what happens. But yeah, they get a big win there, and now they're playing in the championship game. So now we move on to the nightcapper uh, from that day, Saturday. 49ers and the Packers. And, thought this was going to be the year for Rodgers, but it unfortunately was not. 49ers win 13-10 over the Packers. Um, 49ers did not score an offensive touchdown in this game. They got a blocked punt. They blocked a field goal. The blocked punt was a touchdown. Ended up getting a touchdown out of it. And yeah, the Packers, they looked really good on their first drive, went right down the field, 10 plays, got a touchdown with A.J. Dillon, and then that was it. That was their offense. And it was a pretty disappointing loss. And if we had more time, I would go into more detail, but yeah, just another heartbreaking loss for Rodgers in the playoffs. For me, that kind of really showed me that he is just not a guy that performs well in the postseason. And I think his Super Bowl window has closed. And as for the 49ers, they played good defense. They made big plays when they had to. And yeah, we'll go into more about them when we talk about the championship game. So now we get into the Sunday games, which were some of the best football I've ever seen and some of the worst football I've ever seen, actually. Um, Particularly with the Rams and Bucks game, some of the worst. The Rams turning the ball over 4 times um, against the Bucks. They were up as much as 27-3, and if you add one to their score, it's 28-3. But that wasn't the case. It was 27-3, and the Bucks ended up tying the game because of the first Cam Akers fumble really didn't have an impact on that, but the second Cam Akers fumble, the botched snap by the center, um, Cam Akers fumbling again, Cooper Kupp fumbling. I forgot about that as well. And Tom Brady somehow brought them back because of that. But um, it wasn't enough this time for Brady. Matt Stafford making 2 clutch throws to Cooper Kupp setting up a Matt Gay game-winning field goal, and the Rams win 30-27. And maybe on a different show we'll talk about Tom Brady and his possible retirement and whatnot. But yeah, that was a crazy game, and if the Rams choked that, I mean, I don't know what I would have said. But quick thing, in that moment, with Stafford making those 2 throws on that drive, I think if Jared Goff was the quarterback of this team at that moment, he would have self-destructed just like the rest of his team. He would not have made those 2 throws that Matt Stafford did. So Matt Stafford has made a difference for the Rams at quarterback. And then finally we get to the Bills and the Chiefs, which was the best game of the weekend by far. Bills obviously trying to get revenge for that playoff loss last year. And they fell a little bit short. Now, again, we could go into more detail with this, but we want to be quick about it. Both of these teams going back and forth in the final 2 minutes, trading touchdowns. And, you had Josh Allen converting 2 clutch 4th downs, on a 4th and 4, scrambling. It looked like he was going to get sacked, but he was able to get around it, get a 1st down. Then converted a 4th and 13 to Gabe Davis in the end zone. Gabe Davis was wide open. Guy on the Chiefs fell down. Then Mahomes and Tyreek Hill connect on a 60-yard touchdown. And then Josh Allen goes down the field again. And the Bills get a touchdown again to Gabe Davis, who had 4 touchdowns and 201 yards receiving. 13 seconds left. They go up by 3, the Bills. And for some reason, the Bills just did not know how to manage the clock. They didn't try the squib kick to get some time off of the clock. But again, it's 13 seconds. The Chiefs got to get down the field quickly. But they just did not play well defensively in that time. And Patrick Mahomes in 2 plays throws a pass to Tyreek Hill underneath, gets about 20 yards, and then throws a pass to Kelsey, and they get in the field goal range, tie the game, 36-36. And then the Chiefs get the ball in overtime to start overtime, and they go right down the field and score a touchdown to Travis Kelsey to win the game, 42-36. So, yeah, and the Chiefs had all 3 timeouts with 13 seconds left, but still, I really did not think they were going to have enough time to get in the field goal range. And Butker did not have his best game, so even when they were in field goal range and Butker was about to kick the field goal, I was like, it's not a guarantee because he really hasn't had a good game. But he made it, and the Chiefs won again. Got the ball in overtime. And, they move on to the AFC Championship game once again, and they're hosting it now for the 4th year in a row. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the games. Obviously, got to be quick about it because, we are, again, on a time constraint. But some of the best football I watched, they were all exciting, no blowouts, which what we were both hoping for. And, yeah, we'll see what these 2 games bring us. Ben, what were your thoughts on the games from last week?
Yeah, so obviously divisional weekend last weekend was one of the greatest football weekends of all time. 4 absolutely incredible games that came right down to the end. And obviously the one that stands out the most was the Bills and the Chiefs on Sunday. But, yeah, flashing back to Saturday, you hit on it, Kenny, about the Bengals and the Titans. Very embarrassing that Tennessee was unable to come away with the win after being the number 1 seed in the AFC. It is time, I think, for them to really consider moving on from Ryan Tannehill because that game showed us why this team wasn't going to win. I mean, the 3 interceptions that Tannehill threw literally cost them. And the fact that Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times, which is an NFL playoff record, by the way, for most quarterback sacks for the winning team. Just the fact that even happened is ridiculous. So really embarrassing for the Titans to lose in that fashion. But you know what? I do give the Bengals a lot of credit. Joe Burrow has been stepping up big time down the stretch for this team down the stretch in the regular season and now in the playoffs. He had 348 in this game with that 1 interception. And of course, Joe Mixon had the lone touchdown for Cincinnati. Obviously, the hero of the day it has to be Evan McPherson. 4 for 4 on field goals, including that game winner from, I believe it was 52 yards to sink the Titans. In short, it's really sad that the Titans lost this game. But obviously, the 3 interceptions by Tannehill outweighs the 9 sacks by their defense. So gut-wrenching loss again for them in the playoffs. And a good win for the Bengals, who are now in the AFC Championship game. Congratulations to them. The nightcap, of course, 49ers at the Packers on Saturday. Yeah, there's really nothing else to say about this except that the Packers are failing time and time again when they get to the playoffs in these big situations, and it happened again. The San Francisco special teams was all over the place. So Robbie Gould, ends up with 2 kicks in this game, including that game winner from, I think, 45 yards. And the blocked punt returned for a touchdown. The blocked field goal on Mason Crosby, who, by the way, just had an awful season, and I don't think he's coming back to Green Bay, Mason Crosby. It's really unfortunate that, the 49ers got away with a win in this game after not even scoring an offensive touchdown. It's really pathetic, if you ask me. If you're Green Bay, too, scoring 10 points at your home place, Lambeau Field, in a playoff game, it's ridiculous. This can't happen. And unfortunately, time and time again, when we start to buy back into the Packers, they just let us down every time. And this is exactly what happened. I mean, let this sink in, folks. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have a completed pass until midway through the second quarter. That's how embarrassing that offensive performance was for San Fran. The other thing too with Green Bay, what was the most misleading part of the whole game? The very first drive, 10 plays, 69 yards, that ended in an A.J. Dillon touchdown. And from that point on, we thought, the Packers, they're going to cruise this game. They're going right to the divisional round now, or they're going right back to the NFC Championship again. They're in a good spot. And then the rest of the half, they literally punted the ball away. Actually, all of their drives resulted in punts, except for that one drive. That was that Mason Crosby field goal midway through the midway through the fourth quarter, I think it was, when the Packers had gone up 10-3 at that time. So, but yeah, the block punt simply killed them. Special teams was horrendous for the Packers. And I give a lot of credit. 49ers have prided themselves as a team that's good on defense throughout the year, and their special teams really stepped up in a big way. And that's really the sole reason why they won that game Saturday night at Lambeau. Somehow Jimmy G finds himself in an NFC Championship game literally after getting out of Lambeau with one leg. And I loved it too, because as Skip Bayless wrote in a tweet after that game, Jimmy G as in gag. And yet, so lucky that the 49ers were able to win that game up in Lambeau. And one more thing too, obviously all the hubbubs around Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I think a lot of people are going to be surprised, and we did see the report this morning, of course, that Green Bay is optimistic that Rodgers is going to stay. I think he is. He really has to realize that this is his best opportunity. The NFC North is a cupcake division with the Bears, Vikings, and Lions all in it. And I don't think any of those 3 teams have any sort of hope going into next season, except maybe, I guess, the Lions, because Dan Campbell obviously had that squad motivated. They just have to get some talent on that roster. And as for the Bears and the Vikings, they're undergoing an entirely new, head coaching changes. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, you have to stay in Green Bay with the situation at hand. You cannot go to Denver, where it's a loaded AFC West division. But not for me to decide. That will be his decision, and we'll see how that goes throughout the offseason. And then Sunday afternoon, of course, the Rams and the Bucks was a great way to start off, Sunday afternoon. And you know what? Tom Brady, the guy is something else. This time he wasn't able to, unfortunately, get the Bucks over the top, but the LA Rams were up in this game 27-3. I mean, it was one-sided, really, for about 2.5 quarters. And, the Rams were doing a great job of moving the ball downfield. Matt Stafford had a fantastic first half. And by the end of the day, he ended up with 366 with 2 touchdowns. But the second half was really when things started to fall apart. Of course, the last score was that rush by Matthew Stafford. How funny, he has back-to-back games with a rushing touchdown. And from that point on, Tampa Bay really turned it around. We thought this game was, just about over. But you know what? When you have Tom Brady on the other side of the ball, anything's possible, right? So they go downfield, kick a field goal, make it 27-6. Then, they end up getting it all the way back to a 27-27 game. And of course, the ironic part in all this, as soon as the Bucks get the ball back to start the fourth quarter, this was right around the very next play, the Rams recover a fumble. And then Matthew Stafford, it's a bad snap, and it goes about 50 yards over his head. And just a disaster, an absolute disaster. The Bucks got the ball back. Later on in that quarter, of course, Brady's deep pass to Mike Evans. It was a quick strike with under 4 minutes left, which cut it to 7. And then that's when I think a lot of us thought, oh, you know what? The Bucks are right back in this game, and certainly they were. And then with 42 seconds left, Leonard Fournette tied the game in regulation. And I was almost going crazy because I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, is Brady really going to do this twice? But it wasn't meant to be. In overtime, of course, or no, excuse me, not in overtime. I forgot. I felt it went by so quick at the end. The Rams got the ball back, of course, after that Leonard Fournette score. They had one timeout to work with, 42 seconds, and Matthew Stafford with 2 perfect plays drawn up for Cooper Kupp. And I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know how Kupp got separation on that second one, because that was ridiculous. You cannot leave Cooper Kupp open in any late game situation. And that's what, burnt the Bucks, because Matt Gay comes in, kicks a 30-yard game-winning field goal against his former team, no less. So in the end, after a, phenomenal first half for the Rams, and a half of which only resulted in 2 drives without a score, the Bucks made a late charge and somehow got it to a tie game, but it wasn't enough because Matt Stafford came through in the clutch, and finally he has now earned his first 2 playoff wins of his career and is in the NFC Championship game. So that was a thriller on Sunday afternoon. Then, like I said, Bills Chiefs, Kenny, was the cream of the crop from the weekend. It's not even a question, because this game had everything. Between the whole conversation about, Stephon Diggs standing on the field watching the post-game ceremony during the AFC Championship last year, all the motivation that was supposed to come out of that and all that. Incredible game start to finish on both sides of the ball. Just literally trading scores for a good chunk of this game. Both teams went into the locker room, of course, at 14-14. The Chiefs actually led by as much as 9 points by the end of the third quarter, when Mecole Hardman had that open touchdown run from 25 yards out. And that was the Chiefs' biggest lead that they would get in the game as a whole before the Bills came storming back. And, of course, the story, Kenny, was Gabriel Davis. This guy is primed for a breakout in Buffalo, just at the age of 22 out of UCF. 8 catches, 201 yards with 4 touchdowns. And an unbelievable night for him. He accounted for 4 touchdowns in that Bills offensive attack. And Josh Allen as a whole, fantastic performance for him, 27 of 37 with 329 yards and 4 touchdowns. On the other side, Patrick Mahomes, 378 with 3 touchdowns. So both quarterbacks were just putting on a show in this game. And that was kind of, I guess, what we also expected. We expected a high-scoring shootout just because that's the way these two teams are built. If you look at their rosters top to bottom, you can see that they're both very talented on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, what we're building up to is that this was a 26-21 ball game with 8:55 to go. And what we saw in the final 5 minutes of the game, plus overtime, which we ultimately got to, will be unforgettable for a very, very long time, because in the last 2 minutes of the game, the Bills and the Chiefs combined to score 25 points. 25, which is unheard of for such a big magnitude of a game. That's unbelievable. And it all started, of course, with Gabe Davis's touchdown to put the Bills back up by 3, 29-26. And then, Tyreek Hill on that breakaway the next drive, not even 45 seconds later, 64 yards from Mahomes. And one thing that's obviously going to get talked about from that game, too, that goes under the radar, was Tyreek Hill taunting. I mean, he was waving his finger. The NFL has been soft on those calls all year. It potentially could have been called, but at the same time, I think having a no call in the playoff game is definitely good to have. You can't really get too picky with those calls. But then again, I didn't even mention it, but Tom Brady got the first unsportsmanlike conduct penalty of his career against the Rams. So at the same time, don't know what's going on with these calls. So it's 33-29 at that point of the game. Bills get the ball back with 1:02 to go. Allen marches him down the field. Gabe Davis gets the go-ahead touchdown with 13 seconds to go. Everybody's celebrating. The Chiefs fans just fall dead silent at Arrowhead. And unfortunately, after the game, which we saw, Josh Allen, obviously was being a little bit presumptuous on the sideline, as I think a lot of the Bill staff were, about, he said to Gabe Davis, he said, "Hey, man, 4 touchdowns and we're going to the AFC Championship." Well, with 13 seconds, you would think that'd be plenty of leeway, for the Bills to not let up anything stupid. But you'd be wrong. How ironic. Gabe Davis, number 13, scores his 4th touchdown with 13 seconds left on the clock. And this is what Kenny was talking about, alluding to, about the whole squib kick. I think the Bills really should have in that situation. I'm not saying it was completely wrong to kick it into the end zone, but I don't know. At the same time, it just doesn't seem, very logical as to why they decided to boot it into the end zone. I guess they kind of figured, well, how in the world are we going to let the Chiefs get 2 big plays off in 13 seconds? Well, they did. They did, Buffalo, and they ended up getting 44 yards out of it. It was a quick strike, of course, to Tyreek Hill for 19 yards, and then Travis Kelce for another 25, which set up the Bucker game-tying field goal to send it to overtime. And I'm sorry, I don't know how Travis Kelce was left so wide open. Unbelievable that the Bills just slept on him, and he found the separation and was able to pick up the required yardage to get into Bucker's range for him to nail that 49-yarder. And then in overtime, of course, we kind of thought this was going to be a little bit of a, whoever wins the coin toss is going to win the game type of deal, and that's exactly what happened. Much like what the Patriots did to the Chiefs in the 2019 AFC Championship, which, of course, was during the 2018 season. Patriots just marched down the field. They converted 3 third downs on that game-winning drive against the Chiefs, which was, I believe, was either Mahomes' first or second year. I want to say second, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. So the Patriots, marched down the field and they scored that touchdown to win the game. Chiefs, meanwhile, all their fans were complaining about we have to change the overtime rules. A one and done isn't good enough. The other team has to get a chance if the team scores the touchdown. Yeah, how are we feeling now, Chiefs? How are we feeling about that rule? If it comes full circle to you now, 3 years later, they're going to get real quiet on that one. But the overtime rules are fine the way it is, in my opinion. You know what? You're an NFL caliber defense. You have to stop your opponent. And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs failed to do. Or, excuse me, the Buffalo Bills. That's what the Buffalo Bills failed to do against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's why they lost that game. Gut-wrenching. I feel so bad for Josh Allen because this was the best chance so far for the Bills on a big stage to win against the Chiefs. Of course, they won in the regular season, but has nowhere near the same feeling and magnitude as it does in the playoffs. So incredible comeback for the Chiefs to win that game, 42-36. I'm really stunned that that game ended like that, but it is what it is. Also brought in huge ratings for CBS, and was the icing on the cake to what was a phenomenal divisional weekend. If we got to relive that again today, hopefully the magnitude of these games lives up to what happened last weekend. But unbelievable stuff, and this is why the NFL is the best league in sports. It's just because you never know what's going to happen. There's always so much drama, and football just doesn't match like any other sport out there, Kenny. So what a weekend of football last weekend.
Well said. Yeah, I agree. I don't think any sport really matches up to football. I mean, last weekend showed you that football is by far the best sport, and it's not even close, in our opinion. So let's get into these championship games now. So we'll start off with the AFC Championship game because that's the game that will be played first between the Bengals and the Chiefs. Obviously, these two teams met back in Week 17, and that loss by the Chiefs, prevented them from getting the number one seed. So, they're going to try to get revenge for that, losing 34-31 over the Bengals, and that clinched the division, the AFC North for the Bengals for that game. So, in that game, in that game, Ja'Marr Chase had 266 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but considering that Gabe Davis had 201 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns, who knows? This is definitely going to be tough for the Bengals because obviously, like we've talked about so many times, Ben, and the word I love to use is lollygagging with the Chiefs. The Chiefs did not lollygag in the game against the Bills. They were focused. They didn't turn the ball over. They played a clean game. So I think as long as they do that, the Chiefs are going to win this game. I'm picking the Chiefs to win in a close one. The offensive line for the Bengals did not play well last week, and they were playing against the Titans and Ryan Tannehill. Now they're playing against Patrick Mahomes in that offense in the playoffs, and the Chiefs are different in the postseason. And we've seen that over the course of the last couple of seasons. I think it's definitely going to be tough for the Bengals to go in and win. Can they win? Of course they can, because the Chiefs' defense is not very good. Now, the Chiefs are going to be getting Tyrann Mathieu back, who left the game against the Bills with a concussion, trying to tackle Josh Allen, because that's how massive, Josh Allen is as a quarterback. So that definitely helps because Tyrann Mathieu was missed in that game. I mean, the Bills were able to do whatever they wanted. And you know what? Listen, the Bengals have the firepower to do it. I think what's important for them is they get the ball first and, they go down the field and get some points. And I think if they can control the clock with Joe Mixon, keep Mahomes off the field, that definitely helps as well. And I think Joe Burrow is made for this moment. We talk about all these young QBs. They're all built for these moments. And I don't think this moment is going to be too much for Joe Burrow. I think he's going to play well. But I think they're going to come up a little bit short just because Kansas City, I think, has more firepower. And I think, Patrick Mahomes is better than anybody in the league. Though I do expect a lot of points to be scored in this game. And I do think that the Bengals offensive line is going to hurt Burrow in this game. The Titans pass rush been better than Kansas City's this year. So I don't know if they're going to get 9 sacks, but Burrow is going to be under pressure in this game. And I think that's going to hurt them. Whereas Mahomes, I think Mahomes is going to be able to do whatever he wants for the most part. And you could tell in the game against the Bills last week, he was very patient. Was able to, have time to scan his progressions. And if he had to take off with it, he did so. So I really think the keys to the game really Bengals got to control the clock somehow with Joe Mixon. Get the ball first, go down the field and score, and keep everything in front of you. Because obviously teams have been playing the Chiefs differently. We don't really see Mahomes throwing a deep pass as much as we used to because of how people are scheming and things like that. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game. But I think the Chiefs win a close one, and they move on to the Super Bowl for the third time in the last 4 years and three times in a row now, if that happens, if they do win. So I'm going to say the Chiefs win in a close one, but Bengals definitely have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, well said. A lot of good points that you made there. Obviously, that is the first game of the day. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs from Arrowhead Stadium, no less. This is the fourth consecutive AFC championship at Arrowhead. The Chiefs are the first team, I think, in the AFC to do so, if I remember correctly. And you know what? They're sitting in the driver's seat yet again. Obviously, I think this is definitely a favorable matchup for them against the Bengals. They have the better offense, and the Bengals defense, unfortunately, is not, I think, going to be able to keep up with this Chiefs offense. The only way that the Bengals, I think, can expect to win this game today is to keep pace with the Chiefs offense. It's going to be on the shoulders of Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon and the rest of that offense to keep up with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, which is a tough task for a lot of teams in the NFL, a lot of them. Like you said, Kenny, we're not going to see 266 out of Ja'Marr Chase with 3 touchdowns today. I don't think so for an AFC championship game. But hey, you know what? You never know, I guess. But I'm gonna still. I still think Ja'Marr Chase will find the end zone today and probably get close to 100 yards, just because it's in his DNA to perform well in the big games. But yeah, look, you know what, Kenny? I think you said it best about the Bengals during the Titans game. If they can get an offensive line down the road going into next season, this team is definitely bound for great things for years to come, because Joe Burrow is definitely molding into an NFL quarterback. We've seen it, especially down the stretch of these last couple of weeks. They have good pieces around him, including his teammate Ja'Marr Chase, who he played with at LSU. Joe Mixon is back and healthy. The Bengals have a nice team built around Joe Burrow, and what it's going to come down to is building up that offensive line. Because if Joe Burrow gets sacked another 9 times today, which I don't know if it'll be 9, but he is going to get a lot of pressure again today, they're not winning this game. No way. Only the Titans could find a way to, blow that up with a mediocre quarterback and Ryan Tannehill. Patrick Mahomes ain't no Ryan Tannehill. So good luck with that today. Cincy, if your O-line doesn't show up. But yeah, like Kenny said, if the Bengals do invest in offensive line, they're going to be relevant for a long time to come. And I mean, you know what? I'll still give them a shot today. Absolutely. It is a championship game. And the Bengals are here, I think, to, put up a good fight today. That's for sure, no matter what. But I don't think they're there yet. They're not over the hump, personally, in my opinion, or at least enough to overcome the Chiefs today. So I'm going to lean on the Chiefs. Of course, what we do know right now, the spread is set at 7, and the over-under is 54.5, odds courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm taking the Bengals to cover. I think they do keep it within that touchdown range. Unfortunately though, I don't think they're going to win this game. I'm on the Chiefs to win, but I'll take the Bengals to cover. I'll go 30-24 KC, but I will say it would not surprise me if the Chiefs do score more than 30 on the dot, because, like I said, they're going to give the Bengals defense headaches today for sure, though. But let's hope it's a good fight out in Arrowhead this afternoon. The fourth consecutive AFC championship at home for the Chiefs, and they're in prime position to go back to the Super Bowl for their third straight year.
As always, well said, Mr. Upson, on that front. So now we get into the second and final game of the weekend, the second championship game over in the NFC side. Two division rivals, the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is an unlikely matchup. I think we kind of expected Brady versus Rodgers again, but we're not going to get that. We're going to get something different, which I think is good in a way, although, I would have liked to have seen Rodgers get to this game, but unfortunately that did not happen. So, anyways, that's, a story for a different day. So obviously these two teams have met twice this year. 49ers won both games. First game was a blowout. Stafford did not play very well in San Francisco. Then they met in week 18, final week of the regular season. 49ers were down as much as 17-0. Came back, made it 17-17. Matt Stafford throws a touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp. Jimmy Garoppolo drives down the field and answers that with a touchdown of his own to Juwan Jennings to set up overtime. 49ers get the ball first, I believe. They kick a field goal. They go up 27-24, and then Stafford throws an interception to end the game. And because of that win, the 49ers made the playoffs. Now, if the Rams would have just beaten the 49ers would have missed the playoffs. And how different the playoffs would have looked if they didn't even make it. So the Rams better win this game, because if they don't, they're going to look back to that loss and be like, well, if we would have just won that game when we had a 17-point lead, we wouldn't have had to face them in this position. So I think the Rams are going to win this game. I think third time's a charm. I think they were definitely upset about, blowing that lead and losing that game to the 49ers. That left a bad taste in their mouth. And I think they're going to be ready for this game. I think they're going to win a close one. It's not going to be easy, but I just feel like third time's a charm. Rams have not beaten the 49ers in the last couple of years now. The 49ers, I believe, have won 6 straight against the Rams. I think the Rams are going to win this game, though. The defense is playing well. They're running the football. I think, well, they didn't really run it last week against the Bucs, but I just feel like, they're poised to get to the Super Bowl, I think. Stafford's playing well. He's played well in both playoff games. He's definitely made a difference for this team. Odell Beckham Jr. is playing well. Cooper Kupp. They're getting contributions from everybody. Defense is playing good. And I just don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't. The 49ers have won to get to this point. And it's really because of the players around them and not necessarily him. He's made good throws in both games, but he's had some bad throws. And really, statistically, has played awful. If it wasn't for Deebo Samuel and that running game and that defense and Robbie Gould, the 49ers are not in this position right now. Jimmy Garoppolo is kind of just going along for the ride. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo played well in the second half in that game against the Rams in the last week of the regular season and had that clutch drive that, they got the game-tying touchdown to Juwan Jennings that sent it into overtime. So Jimmy Garoppolo can play well in big moments. It's just he hasn't done so in the playoffs. And, when the 49ers went on that Super Bowl run a couple years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo barely threw the ball. They were taking the ball out of his hands because, they just don't trust him. So it's going to be interesting because Garoppolo is going to have to throw the ball in this game. I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to do what they did like they did last week against the Packers, holding them to 10 points. The Rams are going to put up points in this game. And I just feel like the Rams are going to win a close one. Like I said, I just think third time's a charm. But it's definitely going to be a fight to the end. And I'm looking forward to it because I would like to see Stafford get a ring this year. But yeah, it's going to be tough. And the 49ers, they're not coming in that healthy. They got a lot of guys that are banged up. Deebo Samuel was banged up last week in the game against the Packers. So, I just feel like ultimately it's going to be on Garoppolo to win this game for the 49ers. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. I feel like the Rams, they got to make sure that they don't self-destruct like they did last week because that whole sequence of events that occurred last week against the Bucks just made no sense to me. That everything that could go wrong went wrong for them. But it was because of Matthew Stafford and his 2 clutch throws to Cooper Kupp that saved them. So I feel like Stafford's going to make some clutch throws in this game. And I think the Rams win a close one. I think it could come down to a game-winning field goal by Matt Gay. So I'm going to say it'll be a narrow victory for the Rams, but they get it done and they advance to the Super Bowl to host the Super Bowl and be the second team in a row to do so. Now, last year the Bucks had to go to Lambeau to win in order to host the Super Bowl. This year the Rams are already at home, so they just got to win and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to travel or anything. So yeah, I think the Rams will win this game. And hopefully it'll be Stafford versus Mahomes by the end of the night for the Super Bowl. So that's my thoughts on that game.
Yeah. This is interesting, again, this matchup. And the ironic part is that both of these championship games are rematches from the final 2 weeks of the regular season. So these teams in both these games have literally just seen each other. The 49ers and the Rams met 3 weeks ago with literally their playoff hopes on the line for San Francisco, as Kenny said. And then the Bengals and the Chiefs met the week before, week 17, on January 2nd in Cincinnati. So it's very interesting how both of these matchups are rematches from literally not even a month ago. So how about that? But yeah, for this game, obviously the nightcapper, 6:30 on Fox. I think Kenny's right in that this has to be it for the Rams. Because it'll really come down to this, in that if the Rams simply just beat the 49ers to end the regular season, like he said, 49ers wouldn't even be here right now. They wouldn't have been in the playoffs, period. The playoff picture would have looked a whole lot different if San Francisco didn't win that game. We would have had to watch the New Orleans Saints with Taysom Hill. Think about that. This has to be it, though, for the Rams. You look at these two rosters, they're better on paper. They really should be the team coming in that you would think would win this game. But Kenny also made a salient point. The fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is back here in the NFC Championship, which, by the way, this is the 49ers' second NFC Championship in 3 years. They beat the Packers 2 years ago to go to the Super Bowl, and they ended up losing the Chiefs. But Jimmy Garoppolo, it's something else how this guy comes in with only 303 passing yards combined between his first 2 playoff games, hasn't thrown a single touchdown, and has 2 interceptions. Go figure there. And it's all about the playmakers that Kenny was alluding to that are around Jimmy Garoppolo. Between George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, who's really come on in the second half, Elijah Mitchell, who has stepped in just fine for Raheem Mostert this year. The 49ers playmakers have been the reason why they've been so successful, and the fact that they're even out in LA today playing this game. Very, very lucky to even be in this opportunity in the driver's seat right now. But like I said, so Matt Stafford, how ironic, that he has 2 rushing touchdowns in the playoffs so far. He's picked up his first 2 career playoff wins. He's thrown for nearly 600 yards with 4 touchdowns. And the Rams, like I said, I think they have what it takes to get the job done today. I was on them against the Bucs. They gave Brady a lot of trouble, or at least at some points. And Jimmy G ain't no Brady. So the 49ers are going to have some headaches today trying to contain Aaron Donald and Von Miller and the rest of that great Rams defensive line. And as for Cooper Kupp, of course, the story continues. What will he do tonight? Well, probably another touchdown with 100 yards, which is basically what he's been averaging just about every single game this season. Unbelievable, that guy is. The 49ers are good enough, though, I think, to actually cover this game. I'm personally on them at +3.5. I do think the Rams win by 3. So if you're trying to put in any action on this game tonight, watch out for that. I would take the 49ers at 3.5, but not at 3. And the over-under is 45.5. So I think that's personally a little bit too low for a championship game. I'm going to be on the over for this. And I also didn't mention it, but I'm going to be on the over for Bengals Chiefs as well, because I think there'll be a lot of scoring. So yeah, you know what? 49ers Rams definitely doesn't entice me, though. I think it's a better matchup compared to the Bengals and the Chiefs, with at least the way we expect these games to go. And very possible that we could see a Chiefs Rams Super Bowl, which I think is definitely the most ideal scenario. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing the Chiefs match up again with the 49ers. It's just a matter of would the 49ers be able to compete with the Chiefs again this time around? And that's a question I think a lot of us are going to be thinking about as an answer to going forward. But yeah, Kenny, 2 really good games today, I think, on the slate, no matter what. They are championship games after all, so you can't undermine their value, even though, you would think that, Bengals Chiefs could potentially go heavily in one's direction. So, yeah, I'm on the Bengals and the 49ers and the spreads today, but I have the Chiefs and the Rams outright. And the score, by the way, for my Rams pick, I'll go 27-24, reverse score from their last meeting.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same with you. I think that both games are going to be close, but I think the favorites will win. Hopefully, because I feel like for me, Rams Chiefs would be the best Super Bowl. If we somehow got 49ers Bengals, they had a pretty good game in the regular season going into overtime. The Brandon Ayuk touchdown in overtime. But I feel like if we want to see the best Super Bowl possible this year, it's got to be Rams Chiefs. I just feel like there'd be a lot of scoring in that game. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be tough. I feel more confident in the Chiefs winning than I do in the Rams winning, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to these games. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully, it lives up to what last week brought us. And yeah, like I said, by the end of the night, we'll see who's in the Super Bowl. Ben, any closing remarks before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I will say one thing. Just as a little tidbit to go into today from a betting perspective. So I listen, of course, to the Pick Six podcast from CBS Sports, and Will Brinson, who's the head of the show, has a future bet on the Super Bowl matchup to be 49ers Bengals. And fun fact, coming into these playoffs, which is when he took the bet, he took it right before the playoffs started. The odds on that ticket, 85-1 for it to be 49ers Bengals in the Super Bowl. The longest odds of any Super Bowl matchup. So, Kenny, as we go into these games today, think about this. If the 49ers and the Bengals do somehow pull off the upsets, then that means Vegas totally underestimated these two teams. Just a little tidbit to go into this afternoon. Enjoy Championship Sunday, though. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. It is going to be a good one. So that is all we got for today. Thank you for listening. And we'll be back next time recapping the games and previewing the Super Bowl on the next show whenever we decide to do that. So I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder along with Ben Upson signing off. Enjoy Championship Sunday, and we will see you next time.